Hello all and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well. This video is a bit of a firecracker because we've just had a major announcement from the hbar Foundation regarding two major players entering the Hedera ecosystem, leveraging the Hedera consensus service for their forthcoming projects. Apologies if I sound a bit nasally in this video. I'm a little bit under the weather. Recently though, the SEC did ask Coinbase to halt trading in everything except Bitcoin. Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, has come out and said this prior to the exchange being sued by the SEC, and it is appearing all the more likely that the SEC is getting very, very desperate to try and halt the cryptocurrency markets as we see it. Not only that, of course, this comes after the recent defeat of the SEC versus Ripple or XRP, of course, where XRP has then been relisted on majority of exchanges and seen some decent price action since then, but it's all getting muddled. The blurring between the lines is getting more and more aggressive, particularly as we see massive asset managers such as BlackRock wanting to enter the space. MicroStrategy is continuing to ramp up, but the SEC wants to pull down these organizations and institutions, saying that everything other than Bitcoin is effectively a security. So everything is at odds with itself at the moment, and potentially we're in that disillusionment phase of the cryptocurrency markets, and that would be shadowed by the fact, or reiterated by the fact, I should say, the sentiment we're seeing across socials at the moment isn't particularly positive for the majority of cryptocurrencies. People have fallen out of love. The risk on environment still isn't back. Interestingly enough, from Plan B though, on his 200-week moving average kind of model that he's got together, where it goes through these different color ranges based on the months until the next halving. And this typically has been fairly accurate somewhat to depict where we've seen cycle tops. So we can see up here in 2021 and 2022, where we basically peaked out on Bitcoin. And then of course, we've had a very aggressive market. And actually, in fact, this model again shows how much of an aggressive bear market effectively we saw throughout 2022. We've never really seen it pull back so much into the green zone as we did throughout 2022. Although most evidently what we can now see is we're back inside that blue zone, which if we look previously, we tend to then go into a dark blue as we approach 0 days, or sorry, months until the next halving. And then of course, that kind of resets itself and we see a new cycle top. So particularly interesting as we move towards 2023, that we could be starting to see or get closer towards a cycle top either at the end of 2023 or 2024. I did reply to a comment recently on Twitter actually, where someone was asking me what do I think about the markets. As it currently stands, there are so many different macro factors that we're waiting to see a line or some confluence between them. Really, we still haven't seen terminal interest rates yet. Majority of the market's priced in terminal interest rates back in April or May time. So we're several months out from there, although it does appear the United States is getting very, very close to terminal interest rates. We've got other things as well happening, like ETF filings that are of course very bullish, yet the SEC still wanting to effectively close down exchanges and sue more and more people. There are tons of different macro factors at the moment which just aren't aligning. Of course, as well, S&P 500 is approaching all-time highs and the equity markets are performing incredibly well. All over the place at the moment, as I said. But nevertheless, I am continuing to just average into those positions whilst we have the opportunity to do so. This 2.3 figure effective skewness in practice was actually from a recent article effectively from BlackRock itself, and the highlighted points are of most interest. So of course, as we all know, BlackRock is one of the largest asset managers effectively globally, with several trillion of assets under management, and they have filed for a Bitcoin spot ETF amongst other asset managers themselves. Although this article is very, very interesting, or paper I should say, they published. Exhibit 4 presents the results, starting with a 60-40 equity bond portfolio, which is rather conservative really for most people, is produced with a risk aversion of Y equaling 1.5. The optimal Bitcoin allocation is a large, nearly 85%. The remainder of the portfolio, 15.1%, is split 60-40 between equities and bonds. Although Bitcoin has an extremely large volatility of 1.322, the pronounced positive skewness leads to large allocations and dominates in the utility function. The certainty equivalent compensation required to not invest in Bitcoin is close to 200%. Starting at a 20 to 80 stock to bond portfolio leads to a 12.5% BTC allocation, and a risk tolerance invested with 80 to 20 stock to bond portfolio leaves a levered or desires a levered position in Bitcoin of 106.6%. basically breaking this down is it's effectively saying that on the modeling calculation side that BlackRock has run in this particular scenario with the effective skewness in practice, an optimal portfolio going forward into the future could see Bitcoin allocation being as high as 85%. Now that is completely absurd. When we look at Bitcoin as a risk asset per se, majority of people would say, don't go anywhere near as high as say 5% allocation in your portfolio towards cryptocurrencies due to the inherent risk. However, when you risk adjust, which we have known for a long, long time, when you risk adjust the return for Bitcoin and some of the cryptocurrency markets, it actually performs better than the majority of equities. And that is what BlackRock is effectively saying here will continue to happen out into the future. And therefore, a large allocation of nearly 85% is probably something you want to do based on that risk reward ratio. Completely insane. And again, just goes to show how quickly the cryptocurrency market adoption swing will go from one side of the pendulum to another, particularly as we see spot ETFs take hold and we see more and more of these asset managers come out of these models saying, Bitcoin allocation should be this high, cryptocurrency allocation should be this high. We will stop seeing low market caps in the trillions for the cryptocurrency space and probably double digits, 10, 20, 30 trillion in terms of market cap going out into the future to closely match equities and other things like gold and commodity spaces. Again, more of headlines, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. MicroStrategy is again now raising $750 million, so just shy of $1 billion to buy more Bitcoin. Michael Saylor does not appear to be stopping. He is accumulating Bitcoin at all costs, and that is being reflected as well in the MSTR or MicroStrategy share price over in the United States stock market. Of course, it's been performing very well as Bitcoin either trends sideways or upwards from their average position. And again, potentially this is a sign to show that the markets are changing in their risk appetite towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Many of you ask as well why I talk about Bitcoin so much when of course this video is mainly an altcoin channel looking at things like Hedera. And that is simply because Bitcoin is a little bit different in terms of that it's one of the first assets from the crypto space that is effectively being accepted by the masses. Of course, many of us know that it's not really scalable for things like future payments. Yes, there's the Lightning Network and other things like that, although they do appear to be band-aid fixes, particularly when you compare them to the power of something like Hedera. However, Bitcoin does have that first mover advantage, and really it performs more of a store of value rather than a cryptocurrency project like a layer 0 would, such as Hedera, which of course is all based on utility and things like DeFi. Bitcoin is a little bit different in terms of that, but it will be the thing that continues to move the market. And I have no shadow of a doubt that realistically, Bitcoin will probably stay as the number one capped cryptocurrency for the foreseeable future, if not forever going forward out, just because of the way it's been built as a store of value. Right then, what is that announcement for Hedera before this video gets on any longer? The HBAR Foundation is excited to announce that HMG or Hyundai Motor Group, the largest car manufacturer in South Korea, alongside Kia, have introduced an AI-enabled supply chain carbon emission tracking solution on the highly scalable Hedera network. Together with Hyundai and Kia, the supplier CO2 emission monitoring system, or SCEMS system, enables auto manufacturers to compute carbon emissions at every single stage of the supply chain in manufacturing, in turn enabling us in our mission to bring the balance sheet of the planet to the public ledger. All SEMS data is tracked and secured reliably through the Hedera consensus service throughout business operations, including the procurement of raw materials, manufacturing process, and product transportation. So again, really similar to 𝗟𝗚𝗡.io, these could be absolutely mammoth, and I repeat that, mammoth transaction processes and throughput on the Hedera network. Kia and Hyundai themselves are some of the largest car manufacturers now by market share globally, and they have continued to increase that market share over the last 5 years or so. Not only that, if we look at how 𝗟𝗚𝗡.io has been producing so many transactions for the supply chain effectively of clothing and apparel, can you imagine how many components? I know for a fact how many components there are across the vehicle space. And you're talking tens of thousands of individual components potentially that are being tracked through the Hedera consensus service for this SEMS data to be reliably reported in the business operations, including, as we see here, procurement of raw materials, manufacturing process, and product transportation itself. Every single car that is produced by Hyundai or Kia could potentially have tens of thousands of transactions logged against it in Hedera as a part of this change. With this revolutionary system, Hyundai Motor and Kia ultimately aim to tackle climate change issues by preemptively meeting local and global environmental regulations and establishing sustainable supply chains within the companies and their cooperative partners. We're deeply proud to stand alongside Hyundai and Kia as the next global institutions leveraging Hedera to drive sustainability for both their business and our planet. This is a major announcement and everyone should be incredibly excited. Here is what I was just talking about as well, just pulling it up on Statista. Global automotive market share in 2022 by brand. We can see Toyota and Volkswagen hitting the number 1 and 2 spots, Honda in 3rd, and then Hyundai and Kia coming in at 4th and 5th with a combined market share of 9.4%. So 9.4% of every single car sold worldwide is either a Hyundai or a Kia. Put that into perspective for how much volume and throughput we could be seeing over the coming months on the Hedera consensus service, particularly if this is rolled out for their global operations. At the moment, there's no additional information as to whether it's a localized operation because, of course, these guys manufacture globally. They've got plants in Europe, the Americas, EMEA region, right through to the APAC or Apache regions themselves. So it may only be localized to one of those to begin with, but as it opens up to their wider supply chains, this is absolutely an unfathomable use case. And alongside something like 𝗟𝗚𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗦, we could be seeing literally billions of transactions hitting the mainnet in very short spaces of time, and of course breaking more records. And then that starts to feed things like utility for the Hedera network. It builds a bigger brand for Hedera itself. And not only that, things like transaction revenue, etc. There's some really bullish stuff in this announcement, and it's incredibly exciting. This dropped out of absolutely nowhere as well, which is of course even better. We can see here in the actual hbar Foundation article itself, 𝗟𝗜𝗦 is designed to compute carbon emissions at every stage of that supply chain. Blockchain technology holds the key to a revolutionary approach in managing carbon emissions and combating climate change, ushering in a new era of sustainable supply chains with our cooperative network, which is Hyun Hong, the head of Material Research and Engineering Center at Hyundai Motor and Kia. We stand proudly at the forefront of this transformative journey, collaborating with our partners to shape a greener and brighter future for all. Reducing carbon emissions is a critical step towards mitigating the impacts of climate change. And in order to succeed, the data needs to be measured, verified, and reported with accuracy and transparency. And of course, this is something that we've been talking about on the channel as a major selling point for Hedera since day one. The 𝗟𝗜𝗦 system as well also integrates AI technology, of course, a major buzzword at the moment, making it possible to set carbon reduction targets and accurately predict future carbon emissions. The combination of that AI technology and the high performance of the Hedera network enables Hyundai Motor and Kia, as well as their partners, to preemptively meet local and global environmental regulations and establish sustainable supply chains. 𝗟𝗜𝗦 enables regulators, stakeholders, and investors to have complete visibility and confidence in the data that is being reported. So, of course, this is a really interesting thing. We see Hyundai Motor Group there as a global enterprise that has created a value chain based on mobility, steel, and construction. They include brands such as Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis. So they're 3 of the brands effectively that we will be making this transition. Like I said, we don't know yet which parts of their operations will be going live immediately or when in fact they'll be going live directly on the mainnet. All we know is this is a major announcement. It doesn't just end there though as well. We got a major announcement from Fresh Supply Co, which is another use case on Hedera. Today they announced the conditional payment triggering capability, which was formerly on MasterCard's provenance. I have actually covered this in a previous video when they spoke about their migration, is now actually functional on Hedera. So they've completed their migration from MasterCard's provenance to Hedera. This product is Fresh Supply Co AU or FSCO Continuity. It allows former user of now Sunset Provenance to plug into the Hedera hash graph, and they are proud to have been supported by the hbar Foundation. So again, this is further transactions coming to the Hedera mainnet into the future. And this is, of course, to do with the fintech Fresh Supply Co, which is harnessing blockchain to give lenders greater oversight over agri-food supply chains and therefore offers farmers and food producers better credit and lending terms. They were the biggest user of MasterCard's provenance, and of course, they have migrated to the public Hedera network, which again is another bow in the quiver for use cases. And of course, we'll be seeing more and more of these use cases deploy over the course of 2023. And as we approach the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, we'll also be seeing things like community nodes go live, which of course then will truly shut up the naysayers in terms of this being a non-decentralized network. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Like I said, I apologize if I sound a little bit raspy or nasally. I haven't been well for the last couple of weeks or so, and that's obviously why there haven't been as many videos as well. Bit of a cold, etc. If you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like, drop a comment if you've got something to say. Until the next one, I'll catch you then. Cheers.